Well, would you look at that? It's time to roll. How's everybody tonight? We're in the pre-show, just warming up for the real show, which will be starting in just about 3 minutes. So just making sure all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed to broadcast. And it looks like we are. Looks like we're ready to roll. So there we go. Welcome. As you're coming in. Once again, pre-show. Nothing to lose your shit over. Nothing to get excited about yet. We're just building up to the actual show, which starts in about 2 minutes. So, cheers. Slangeva, as they say. Hey, Grumpy Stack. How you doing? Steve Clark. Good to see you. Carlene, how you doing? I'm tired. I've just determined there's nothing wrong with me. It's just age. The older I get, the tireder I get throughout the day. I need to start going to bed like an old guy, you know. I'm going to bed at 7 o'clock. Ain't nothing fit for man or beast after 7 o'clock. So I can wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Get my day started. In style. Hey, Deborah Sloan. Good to see you. Nice to have you in here. This is the pre-show. For those of you that don't know, the pre-show lasts about 3 minutes. It's just us getting warmed up. I'm like my own warm-up comedy routine. Some days it's funny, some days it's not, but I got to warm myself up. We got about 1 minute and 5 seconds, and we go live on the radio station. So we'll go dark at that time for a few seconds, then the opening credits, and then the show. And so welcome to everybody. Matt Finn, good to see you, brother. Nice to have you here. As always, Matt Finn, the master and commander of this chat room over in the YouTube side of things. So it is 2 minutes and 26 seconds after the top of the hour. At 3 minutes past the top of the hour, we go live. So, hope you're all doing well. Chief Romeldian, good to see you in the chat room. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close to time. All right, we're going to go dark, and then we're going to start this show. Sit tight.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, happy Wednesday night. And at the same time, happy March Day. Happy March 1st. We've already made it to the 3rd month of the year, and I'm already sick of winter. Well, this is the time winter's supposed to start going away anyway. So, as Camelot said in the music, it exits March the 2nd on the dot. So that's tomorrow. We'll see if winter's gone on the dot tomorrow. So welcome to the show. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host. This is my program, this here, the Intrepid radio program, right here on subspace.radio. You can go to subspace.radio and hear this show in its audio format only, and you can hear archives and audio over there, as well as Spreaker and other places. And you can also watch the video simulcast of this show live over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts if you're not here already. And while you're here, hit the subscribe button and the little bell that will give you announcements when the show comes. When you're here watching the show, what do all the cool guys say? Smash that like button. Now, just go ahead and hit the like button. Helps our algorithms such as they are. And over on the YouTube channel. And if you'd like, you can hit the join button. You'll see 3 ways that you can contribute to this show and help keep it on the air. Appreciate it. And that's at the join button. And thank you for all of those of you who are members already. And also, we are simulcasting on my Facebook channel, and my Twitter channel, and a couple of different Facebook locations. So, everybody, thanks for being here. Thank you now. And let's get into it. Hey, Field Guy. See, Field Guy came into the chat room and I had to say hi. Barbie D is here. Those of you who are slipping in after we started the show, thanks for being here. And I think I've got all the kind of announcement things out of the way, but I wanted to show you these. I think I showed you these once before. Rainey got me this little set of cards at the thrift store. Affirmators. This is 50 affirmation cards to help you help yourself without self-helpiness. And so it's cards. It's not really like tarot or anything like that. And you'll have to pardon the coughing. I'm not even going to reach for the cough button. It's so often. Almost over this cold, I would hope. There are times my voice feels really good, and then I get all snoogy and sinusy again, which I was all day yesterday, along with Rainey and the kids. And the kids seem to cope with it a lot better than we adults. So it's kind of a pain. So pardon me in the radio show if you hear me cough. So if I want to, I can draw a card. Let's draw a card here and see what it says for today, shall we? You kind of get an idea of what these affirmators are all about when you see a bunny rabbit riding a unicorn on the box and on the back of every one of these cards. So I don't think they're really like fortune telling. They're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be you shuffle them up a little bit. So let's shuffle them a tiny bit and we'll draw a card. And let's talk extemporaneously about whatever this card says. And I don't know why I wanted to lisp on that extemporaneous. Probably because it's a big 2-bit word. So 2 bits and a half. So they would say, okay, I'm going to cut this deck. And then let's pull our affirmator card. Ta-da-da! Here it is. The card is everyone's a teacher. All right. Now this says, sorry, I got to put on the cheaters, even though I could read them. It's just easier with these. Card says, everyone I cross paths with is a teacher in that moment. The ones who give me the fun lessons are the ones I call friends. The ones who give me the hard lessons I sometimes call a-holes. It says on here, a-hole, a-hole. We all know what he really means, don't we? Asshole. They've chosen a tough job, but someone's got to do it. So today, I'm thanking all the assholes. Thank you, assholes, for playing your part in making me a better person. So there you go, folks. That's an affirmator. So tomorrow, when you set off on your day, or maybe it's tonight, maybe you're still doing stuff tonight and you got to encounter people in the rest of the world tonight, you can use that as an affirmator that all the people who are out there who are assholes in your realm of existence are there to help you grow. It's kind of like the old comic. It wasn't really comic in the sense of being funny, but a comic strip. Remember the old heavy metal magazine? And back in the 80s, 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, I don't think it's still out anymore. But they would do, artists would do little 5, 6, 7-page vignettes of comic strip. And some of it pretty heavy-duty stuff and serious. They had the one of the Western. There was a Western scene, and there was the bad guy, and the bad guy was always shooting everybody up. And finally, he had a showdown with the hero, and the hero guns him down. Well, in the final scene, you see this kind of misty scene in this marbled hall, and this cowboy, this bad guy, comes stumbling in, a couple of bullet holes in him. And there's an old wizard-looking guy and basically asking him, so, how did you fare this time? Hero, he calls him, I think, if I remember correctly. And it turns out that he is the bad guy that is always sent to give the hero somebody to overcome. And so you kind of wonder about that. Maybe the assholes are sent into our lives to be assholes because it builds our character. Helps us understand how we're not supposed to be assholes. Maybe it and how we respond to them is probably really important. Sometimes assholes make me want to punch them in the mouth, and other times assholes make me realize how much better a person I am than an asshole. Although I can be an asshole sometimes. So consider that as you go into your day tomorrow, the rest of the night tonight. Assholes are there for a reason. Everybody's got an asshole, as my mom said. And they're all there, put there for a reason. One kind of asshole or the other. So may that be encouraging to you and a strong affirmator for your day tomorrow. So that was a cool little set that Rainey got me. Kind of fun. I love esoteric truths or truisms packed in comic style. That's kind of cool. Let's see. What do we got going on? Texarkana. I see. Elderberry, are you talking about the story I'm talking about? From Heavy Metal Magazine? Or are you in a different conversation there? You said the story was called Texarkana. So I don't know. Anyway, let me ask you something. We talk not all the time about weird stuff on this show. I could capitalize on weird stuff. There's a lot of things I could capitalize on with this show. I could capitalize on politics. We could make this very right wing, not right wing because I'm not right winger by the definition of it. I am a rightist. I am right of center. I'm a conservative, but I'm left of center on some things, but mostly libertarian in my bent, with a constitutional twist. I could be that kind of a host. We could do that kind of a show here day in and day out. You tell me that there is not a plethora of stories that could keep this show running as a political commentary show for the rest of my life, you'd be mistaken. It's just, it gets old. This is why I kind of walked away from doing politics all the time, because it gets old. But we could do politics on this show. We could do religion on this show. And I'm not talking about church or churchifying with this show, but talking about religion and the things that affect us, both past and in the present, with religion, religious studies, comparative religions, going into spiritualities, going into mysticism, all of those kinds of things that you want to put into religion. And I'm packing that a lot into that word. We could do a show that's solely on that kind of stuff. We could do a show that solely talks about ghosts and the paranormal, because there's plenty of that out there. And I do want to make a note, by the way, about Friday's show. I said that I'm going to give this Friday a little debriefing on what we did this last weekend. Nix that. We're going to have a different topic altogether. We had to sign kind of post-effective an NDA, a non-disclosure for what we did this last weekend, because it is, most I can say is a show in the works and that we went ghost hunting. That's about most that anybody knew. So I can't give any details on it. Sorry about that. I can't leak any of that. That's all for the show itself for when that comes out. So sorry, we've got to change course for this coming Friday. And one thing I can tell you about this weekend, though, it's a big secret. All right. Don't tell anybody about this. I hope I'm not in violation of my NDA, but I didn't get a haircut before the weekend. And I looked shaggy, mighty doggone shaggy in some of that filming. It's surprising how a man with so little hair left has the ability to look shaggy. I'd be one of those guys, if I go totally bald on top, I'd be like Danny DeVito type. I'd be bald here, and all my hair would kind of stick out here, like Curly from the Three Stooges. And so that's what my hair did. And it was long in the back. My old barber cut my hair yesterday afternoon, and he said, "Oh man, Scotty," he says, "you got hair back here on the back of my neck." He says, "You got hair back here that's 2 inches long coming out of the back of your neck. Tufts of long hair. I look like I was growing a shag. If those of you who are old as I am remember the shag hairstyle." So that's what I can tell you about this weekend. My hair was too long. I was shaggy all weekend. I felt unshoveled all weekend. Disheveled, I guess is the word. I forgot to bring a couple of things, mostly the things like coats. I forgot my coats. I had 2 coats, one for just in case the car went off the road and I had a warm coat in the blizzard, and I had my navy pea coat that I was going to wear in the freezing cold building. Laid them both out, forgot them both, walked off without them, and a couple of little things like that. So, but yeah, those of you who saw the live broadcast, now that live broadcast is gone. It was live at the moment and it wasn't saved. It was for audience participation. And Uncle Dave was one of them. He saw it, and I think, was it Carlene was there? I do believe, or somebody else in the room. So that's all I can say about the weekend. It's not a big dark secret or anything. It's just things to be kept under wraps until the time is right. So all these things I could be talking about: politics, religion, the paranormal. I guess you could fit UFOs and stuff like that under the category of paranormal. So I spread out a little bit on that. And philosophy, by the way, psychology, relationship stuff. Wendy and I seem to be, if you haven't come and heard Wendy and I on Tuesdays for Robertson, you'll have to join us. We've kind of started off doing history and a little relationship stuff and all that, and we seem to be really funneling down into relationship stuff, relationship psychology, if you will. So that's what Tuesdays are for. If you haven't seen it, come on over and join us on Tuesdays. And so all of that to say, I've got all these kinds of topics I could keep pursuing. And I could pursue them in general, try to be a jack of all trades, or I could focus. And I haven't decided which I want to do yet. But tonight, I wanted to, in all this stuff we talk about, we don't talk a lot about the whole alien issue or the UFO issue. We've had a few shows on it, but it's not been a going concern. And I've never really kept myself very educated in the what's what and who's who and who's in the know and what's the thing to know in the whole, like alien disclosure, UFO disclosure stuff. That's never been my thing in my area of constant study. Even though I was on the show Ancient Aliens a few times, several times, back, and we're talking now 10 years ago. But when I did that, even then I said, I am not an ancient alienist, although I've entertained the ideas. So there's all this kind of stuff. I do a Seinfeld show. It's about nothing, says Field Guy. Yeah, you do. There it is. It's too early for me, says Sarah. Oh, well, welcome. Glad you're here so early. You've not peaked yet today. So there's a raging question that is out there in the alien research field, if you will, or put it this way, the concept, the consideration of the alien field. My what would you call him? He's not really my son-in-law because he and my daughter aren't married, but they've been together for 6 years. So maybe he's almost my common law son-in-law, but he does a little Sasquatch show. I think once a week. Micah Hanks is a good friend of his. You've ever listened to Micah Hanks' radio show? It's kind of all, I think, under the auspices or the production of Micah Hanks, if I understand it right. But I happen to just pass across it on his Instagram tonight. And they were talking to somebody already, and they were well into the show, talking about Bigfoot and so on. And he said, one of the guys that was on the show said, I don't think everybody, unlike me, he says, I don't think people are out there worrying or thinking about Sasquatch every day. And I wrote in the chat room, I said, "Oh, I think about Sasquatch every day." I said, "I've just never encountered." And my son-in-law said, "Well, that's Scotty. I don't know who's calling me during my show, but hey, folks, if you want to talk to me, don't call me during the show." And I think I've turned off my ringer. Well, I haven't. I just turned off the phone. So whoever called me, I didn't even look. I just hit the button. You can. I won't take calls during the show on my telephone. So we're doing a show here. Boom, bing, show radio. So come on into the chat room, and you can talk in there. And so I don't have a link, Dave. If you're talking about Dakota, I don't have his link. I just happen to see it on his YouTube channel. It popped up. Anyway, they asked a question about thinking about things. And so this is where I'm funneling down my thought tonight on this. How often do we think about some of the strange things that are out there? We're so concerned with day-to-day life and the things that we do every day, day in and day out. We have to worry about politics. We have to worry about, and some people don't even worry about that. It's your own country. Do you worry about the politics and the political situation that's going on? So politics are going on. And we also have religion or our spirituality that we have to think about. We think about these things every day, whether we think we do or not, to one extent or another. And if we don't, we've completely secularized our thinking, and we're outside that box of the things that might be or could be or that we hope to be or that our heart hopes to be or our souls hope to be, and so on, our spirits. So Fermi paradox. Yes, that's what we're going to be getting to, Sarah, like the title implies of the show. So the big question that I'm getting to now is, because we think of all these things and we sometimes think about some things more than others. One of those things, as I mentioned, was Sasquatch. Another one is God or religion or spirituality. I think about these things all the time. But what about aliens? Alien life. Not UFOs per se or UPIs, not that. I'm talking about, what about the possibility of alien life? That here we are on this little blue dot, as Carl Sagan referred to it. And how often do you think about what's going on outside our world? Because that's an awfully darn big question. I liked in Carl Sagan's book and the movie made after it of the same name, Contact, that had Jodie Foster and McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey was in it. There's, I did not get my sound turned down, so pardon the sounds all beeping in. Otherwise, I got to pick up my phone and figure it out. So there's no just single switch to turn off the sound. So where are the extraterrestrials? Is the big question that's out there. And it's kind of, you find yourself, if you ever stop and think about that, you're wrestling with the intellectual challenge of possibly living in a lonely universe. And what I was mentioning in Carl Sagan's Contact, in the movie, there was a quote where she and her dad, when she's young, are looking up at the stars through a telescope, and he says they're reminiscing on life out there. And I think it was her dad that said, "Hey, if there's not life out there, it's an awful lot of wasted space." And so you think about that. Are we alone in this huge universe? Is it a lonely universe? Maybe lonely from dot A to dot B to dot C. It's lonely at the expanses in between. And yes, Sarah, space is vast, and we're just a dot in it. And so we have to kind of ask. I said axe. We have to ask ourselves some of these questions. And some of the points I want to cover while we're talking about this tonight is there's kind of this species-wide psychological impact of contact with extraterrestrial intelligence that would be absolutely profound if it took place. Think about it for a second, folks. Now, as you all know, I grew up on Star Trek. I was a big Star Trek fan. Is alien contact going to be anything like Star Trek? Is it going to be the opposite? Is it going to be something that wants to eat us, strip us of our resources? Which some scientists think. A lot of great thinkers who pondered on these questions all said, well, they kind of all came to the conclusion that they kind of thought that if there's alien contact with us, it's going to come in the form of like conquistadors toward us. Chuck Thurston says it's mathematically and scientifically impossible for no other form of life to exist out there. We have life on Earth that lives in molten lava. So life happens. Yeah, very true. That was my next point, is at the age of the universe, and it's a staggering amount of stars and worlds, suggests that life should be absolutely abundant. See, I'm already reaching this stage where I've been talking enough now that my throat's starting to get to me. Just going to kind of try to keep it wetted down. And then there is, of course, the Fermi paradox, or the Fermi, however you want to say it. It's named after a guy. Why contact hasn't occurred is an important intellectual challenge with some potential explanations, and more are likely than others. So, confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence, we'll call it ETIs, would be a profound moment in human history and a force of radical overhaul of our psychological perspectives. And based on the size, the age, the content of the universe, it's rational for us to suspect, perhaps even expect that extraterrestrial civilizations exist in great numbers. And yet all we know is, you think about it, all we really know is loneliness. That seems funny that we can say we're lonely in a planet full of billions of people. Loneliness in the universe. And of course, we've talked about it before. We've talked about it rather flippantly at times, jokingly. But there are those who firmly believe this and seem to have some kind of major insight on this, is that they believe that there is already like a galactic federation that's already out there called a federation. Don't think Star Trek. It's something very different than that, from what I've heard from some of these people who seem to have had contact with that unknown. And people would rightfully ask, well, why isn't that shared with us then on a planet-wide basis? Well, there's apparently a reason. I don't know what that reason is. But more than 70 years ago, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, it was Enrico Fermi, famously asked, where are they? And that question became known as Fermi's paradox. That's the title of the show, Fermi's paradox. So where are they was his big question. It endures today as kind of this irritating intellectual itch that's felt by all those who consider the problem of a universe that should be teeming with ETIs, but has given us nothing. You get that? There's the paradox. It should be teeming, overrun with extraterrestrial intelligences, but it's given us absolutely nothing but cold, dark silence. And to date, we have no visit, no evidence, not even the faintest whisper of some eternal drone in a distant post-biological society, at least none that we know of on a grander scale. People will claim they've personally experienced some of these things, but then those become anecdotal experiences. So with all due respect to the Drake equation and its mathematically loose but compelling case for ETIs, it is possible that we get this, folks, it is possible that we're alone in the universe. I don't happen to think so. I'm just saying that is one of the possibilities. However, if extraterrestrial civilizations do exist in great numbers out there, then one or some combination of the following 8 responses to Fermi's questions are a good bet to explain why first contact has not happened. You ready for these? I'm going to give you 8 different reasons why Fermi. I read it the very first time as Fermi, and it's been in my head forever as Fermi. But Fermi's questions are, here's our responses to them, all right, that we can look at tonight. Number 1, time. In the cosmic context, our species has not transcended mayfly status. Okay? Now, you might be a believer in, say, biblical creation, which says the earth is only 6,000 to 7,000 years old. And I know people who believe that God created all these, what looks like billions of years of evolution in a heartbeat, a blink of an eye. So setting that aside, anatomically, modern humans are little more than 300,000 years old. And civilization is 6,000 or 7,000 years old. Civilized humanity. And so these are minuscule fractions of moments in a universe where time is measured in billions of years. And our flash of existence may not have provided a sufficient window of time for an ETI to happen by or to contact us from afar. So time is that first factor. And I'm handling these very simplistically. How do you respond to the Fermi paradox? Sarah says the 9th reason is not wanting to deal with the drama. How do you know that's the 9th one? That might be one of the next 7, for all you know, Sarah. The drama of ETIs, or the drama of people wanted to be taken away by aliens. I don't know which one it is that you're referring to, but yeah, there's drama there, certainly. So the first one, time. Second one, maybe we're repulsive to other entities out there. Maybe it's us. Maybe ETIs observed us, didn't like what they saw, and we could be such a bizarre, crazed, obnoxious, and reckless life form that they said, nope, no thank you, and kept going. And so it's not difficult to imagine ETIs struggling to justify first contact with a life form that allows a significant portion of its kind to suffer in extreme poverty, while also routinely using lethal technology against itself and destroying the ecosystem it depends on to live. I sound very much like a liberal there, don't I? Or progressive, but there's the truth of it. Would you want to get a hold of and make friendly with a civilization that does that lets its own die off, that kills its own routinely to see who's going to be on top of the pile? Would you be enthusiastic about making friends with a species that has not yet figured out how to be friends with itself? There's a possibility. So, number 1, time. Number 2, maybe we are repulsive as a race to anything that's come in contact with us. And maybe they're like, oh, nope, not going there. So, there it is, Professor Bauer. You're quoting my favorite astrophysical. I'd rather, he said, Richard Feynman, stop calling, whoever's calling. Don't call during the show. He says, Richard Feynman said, and it already scrolled up. You'd think I know this by heart because I've quoted it before. I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. It's like Feynman said, I'd rather come to the end of my life not knowing than finding out all the things I knew were the wrong things. So there it is, Professor Bauer. So moving on, the third thing, the cosmos is a killer. The universe doesn't care how smart we are How smart you are, how smart I am, how smart Dr. Bauer is. Sorry, Professor Bauer, I just gave you a PhD. And it has multiple ways of obliterating civilizations, the universe does. Maybe wandering black holes rip up extraterrestrial societies, and gamma ray bursts sanitize entire galaxies at a frequency that doesn't allow civilizations enough time to find one another. Who knows? How about distance? There's the fourth one. Current physics confidently declares that nothing, current physics, by the way, confidently declares that nothing can exceed the speed of light. And if no one can beat or cheat this ultimate speed limit, it means we are all stuck in cosmic molasses. The astounding distances between stars and between galaxies translate to journeys that probably will always and ever be beyond the realm of our ability to travel them, beyond the patience of most or all ETIs to come and see us. For example, if we had a spaceship capable of achieving 99.99% of light speed, it would take us more than 2 million years to reach the Andromeda galaxy at that speed. Who's got the time? I got kids to drive to school in the morning. And it's a relatively close neighbor here in the Virgo spectral cluster, supercluster. And if most ETIs happen to be congregated over the other side of the universe, it would take them billions of years to reach us at what we know of physics and the ability to travel at speed, what speeds we can travel. And to make matters worse, the expanding universe pulls us farther apart every moment. So Professor Bauer says our current science and understanding of reality is woefully inaccurate and ignorant. No, I believe that. I've always said when I had my great debates and arguments with scientists over some of my theories over the last 10, 15 years, I said, science is only as much as we can understand up to this point. Science isn't the end all and be all. It's a great stepping stone. It's a great tool. But science has only defined what we can understand so far. It's a different way to travel. Backing up what Sarah said earlier, next point is nobody cares. What if curiosity is a rare eccentricity and most ETIs don't want or need to explore, expand, or colonize? What if this behavior is uniquely human? We can't assume that wanderlust is a common trait of intelligent, that space travel is a standard feature of civilizations. Maybe ETIs tend to look inward rather than outward because they're content or so sophisticated they don't waste time thinking about the mundane life on faraway worlds that they think might not even be there. Yeah, maybe they don't care. Maybe there's a great apathy about it. Still waiting for my Marty McFly hoverboard, says Sarah Yusuf. Yeah, me too. You and me both, except I'd fall over on it now. I don't have balance anymore. Chuck Thurston says the visual light emission from a supernova lasts about 2 minutes, and in that time, countless planets can die. Yeah, how about that? You ever think about that? You ever think about the fact that the light we see from those distant stars left those planets, eons ago? How much time has passed between this moment and when that light left there? Billions of years? Science is not inevitable. Our societies today are so saturated with science and technology that it seems to us as if science arises naturally as a byproduct of thinking. It doesn't. We've just seen that with a lot of COVID crap lately. But maybe the methods and the principles of science don't just happen. Scientific discovery, complex technology could be rare. Even among extremely intelligent life forms, intelligence is a complicated, varied, subjective phenomenon that's not necessarily synonymous with scientific. Maybe we're a quirky outlier. ETIs could be intelligent in ways that we haven't even imagined or can't even comprehend, ways that do not include spaceships and interstellar broadcasts. Professor Bauer, let me ask you, has our astrological friend, Jeff Harmon, has he ever done a look into extraterrestrials? What's he have to say about it? Another point is self-destruction is inevitable. Dead aliens don't send postcards. In the blink of an eye, we went from the charming Wright brothers flyer at Kitty Hawk to ominous B-52s loaded with fusion bombs. Perhaps spacefaring civilizations are, by necessity, so ambitious, creative, and voracious that they inevitably eat their own. Call it the more brains, more problems syndrome. Maybe when imagination and technology grow in tandem over thousands or millions of years, the odds of self-destruction increase until something finally gives way. We admire intelligence because we have it. But what if the fool's gold of evolution? But what if it's the fool's gold of evolution? What if it's the fake riches of evolution? Complex civilizations could be dead-end streets where ETIs race to destruction. Our sample size of one proves nothing, of course. But we seem to be demonstrating this predicament right now. Without radical species-wide psychological maturation, significantly enhanced thinking skills, and a thorough redesign of a key social structure, it's difficult to imagine how we could survive ourselves, let alone a galactic federation of planets out there. Professor Bauer says, just Jeff Harmon agrees they exist. I just wonder if he did anything astrological on that, if there's a way to even look at that. And he also says, Professor says, we are clearly engineered or created according to all philosophies and theologies and cultural mythos. Yeah, there it is. Maybe the final point on this, maybe we're boring. Maybe we fall so far over on the unfortunate end of the boring, fascinating spectrum that ETIs have no interest in meeting us. It could be that we move, communicate, and think so slowly or incompetently that they chose to visit other worlds or stay submerged in their own virtual universes. Lichens are an amazing fusion of fungi and algae. Much as they fascinate me, however, if I were exploring someplace populated with dynamic, creative, and deeply philosophical life forms, it might take me a while before I melt to appreciate the local version of lichens. We love to think highly of ourselves, don't we? But somebody must be the dullest of them all. Maybe it's us. Maybe we are the lichens of the cosmic intelligentsia. I don't know. What do you think about that? And I got a little bit of time, so I can dig a little deeper on something else here. It's still, we're left with that question, that Fermi paradox of, is there anybody out there? Something we've always asked. We can ask it, I think our ancestors asked it when they wandered out into the wilderness for the first time. Is there anybody else out there? Now that we seem to have conquered all our wildernesses on the planet, to one extent or another, we still ask that question about what's around us, what's out there. the more we learn about how vast the universe is. Like, again, as I'd mentioned before, it was with not the Kepler, the other one, the big telescope 10, 15 years ago. They did, maybe it was the Kepler. They did the big intense 10-day photograph of something about the size of what would be like your pinky fingernail if you held it out at arm's length and looked at the night sky. And they found within that, with the ultra red photography they did, that there were at least 10,000 galaxies in that little tiny speck of sky. Exponentially do the math and fill the whole sky, surrounding the whole planet, and you get an idea. Well, it'd be less space if it were a flat planet, but I'm thinking in globe. I believe there's a globe here. The Deep Field Hubble, that's it. I knew it was an H word, not Kepler, Hubble. So with all of that, you still have to ask, is there anyone out there? And if there is, why don't they answer? And if they have answered, why do they keep it a secret? Chuck Thurston said, we're too dangerous to them and everything else. Well, see, that's our supposition. But we can't prove that. Maybe they could wipe us out in the blink of an eye. Maybe we're not dangerous to them at all. If they got the technology to travel this far, do they have the technology to destroy us all in a heartbeat? Are those things mutually exclusive? So given that our solar system is quite young compared to the rest of the universe, it's roughly 4.5 billion years old compared to 13.8 billion. And that interstellar travel might be fairly easy to achieve given enough time. Earth should have been visited by aliens already, the idea goes. And the paradox takes its name, as we talked about, the Fermi paradox, from Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi, who supposedly made all these points we've been making all night during a casual lunchtime conversation in 1950. And the implications have had astrobiologists and other scientists scratching their heads in the decades ever since. And Fermi grasped that any civilization with a modest amount of rocket technology and an immodest amount of imperial incentive could rapidly colonize the entire galaxy. This is what representatives of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, had to say. Mountain View, California. Within a few million years, tens of millions of years, they say, every star system could be brought under the wing of empire. Tens of millions of years may sound like a long project, but in fact, it's quite short compared to the age of the galaxy, which is roughly 1,000 times more. So Fermi died in 1954. And so exploration and explication of the idea fell to other people, such as Michael Hart, who wrote an article entitled An Explanation for the Absence of Extraterrestrials on Earth. How about that? That was in 1975. I was still in high school when he wrote that. An explanation for the absence of extraterrestrials on Earth. Well, I want to know what that is. I may have seen his article at the time and just don't remember it. Some say this is the first such paper to explore the Fermi paradox, although that's kind of hard to prove. But he said, we observe that no intelligent beings from outer space are now present on the Earth. He wrote that in the paper's abstract. He says it suggested that this fact can best be explained by the hypothesis that there are no advanced civilizations in our galaxy. He noted, however, that more research in biochemistry, planetary formation, atmospheres was needed to better narrow down that answer. So he argued that intelligent aliens could already have visited Earth at some point in our planet's history, unless they started their journey less than 2 million years ago. And he thought the apparent lack of such visits is most likely due to the lack of intelligent aliens. But he outlined 4 other potential explanations as well. These are those, 4 of them. He said, aliens never came here because of a physical difficulty that makes space travel infeasible, which could be related to astronomy, biology, or engineering. 2, aliens simply chose to never visit us. 3, advanced civilizations beyond Earth are too recent for aliens to reach us. And 4, aliens have visited Earth in the past, but we have not observed them. Those were his explanations. So there's all kinds of people that have written papers on this stuff and everything since then. And I've got so much material here, I'm not going to get through it, at least for the radio audience, in the next 4 minutes. So, well, maybe I have a little bit more time than that. Let me take a look here. Hold on. I've got a little bit more time. I got about 9 minutes left on the radio. Not that we can't talk about it afterwards, but I'm trying to get as much in on the radio show as possible. So let's take a look at that. Frank Tipler. He was a professor of physics at Tulane University, and he followed up on Hart's argument. In 1980, 5 years later, he wrote a paper titled Extraterrestrial Intelligent Beings Do Not Exist. Boom, there it is, all in his title. What's there left to write? He also published in the RAS Quarterly Journal, so on. And the bulk of his paper dealt with how to get resources for interstellar travel, which he suggested could be achieved by having some kind of self-replicating artificial intelligence move from star system to star system, creating copies of itself as it traveled. That to me is just infeasible. And it's even as an idea, it's infeasible. So since the evidence of such advanced machinery has never been found on Earth, Tipler argued that we are likely the only intelligence that's out there. Who's out there? Nobody, according to Tipler. We're probably the only intelligence. He also wrote in the 1980 paper that those who believe in extraterrestrial intelligence are similar to UFO, unidentified flying object enthusiasts, because both camps believe we are going to be saved from ourselves by some miraculous interstellar intervention, which is a bunch of hooey, if you ask me. Today, the topic of extraterrestrial intelligence is a really popular one, and there's multiple papers appearing every year from different research groups, and the idea that advanced civilizations may exist beyond Earth has been buoyed by this ongoing exoplanet revolution. So there's plentiful planets out there. The universe is incredibly vast and old. Data gathered by a variety of telescopes show that the observable universe is about 92 billion light years wide. And meaning it would take you a year, 92 billion light years at light speed to travel from one end to the other if it stopped expanding. And it's growing faster and faster all the while, and the separate measurements indicate it's about 13.82 billion years old. So, alien civilizations have plenty of time to arise and spread, but they also likely must cross a vast cosmic gulf to get here. And why would they come here? How would they pinpoint us? So when Fermi made his famous remark, the only planets scientists knew about were in our own solar system. But as we all know, that's advanced a lot since then. And I'm skipping a lot of my material here because we just don't have time to go through it all. Not tonight anyway. Advanced telescopes over time, scientists will be able to probe the chemical compositions of some nearby exoplanets' atmospheres. Nearby, by the way, is a relative term. The closest known exoplanet, Proxima b, lies about 4.2 light years away, which is roughly 25 trillion miles away from us. So I had to travel 385 miles the other day by car. That was excruciating. So the eventual goal is to understand how often rocky planets form in the habitable zone habitable, I said, the habitable zone of their parent stars, which is traditionally defined as the range of orbital distances in which water can exist on a world surface, or as Spock said in Star Trek, a Class M planet. Yeah, maybe the aliens need gas money. Yeah, maybe it's an awfully expensive venture to travel to find us. Doesn't that govern everything? What it costs in one respect or another? Professor Bauer says entanglement proves the speed of light is not reality. Now, I've heard that before, so there it is. The speed of light is not reality. Deborah Sloan says, so they have to figure out how to travel from point to point instead of distance. There it is. I wrote an interesting novel when I was a kid. High school or college, I don't remember which, but where all they had to do was basically think of where they wanted to be, and they could be transported there. It was an interesting concept. It was more scientific than that, but that was kind of how it broke down. So, yeah, there's got to be ways. Well, warp speed, bending space. To get from, instead of traveling from here to here, you bend it and you travel from here to here. So that's the idea behind it anyway. So with not much time left on this particular show, I'm going to see if I can just... there's probably no single solution to the Fermi paradox. Most researchers say that most researchers say that, but a combination of factors, including perhaps some of the ones discussed during this show tonight and this information, some of the material I skipped because we just don't have enough time, are likely responsible for the great silence that currently confronts us. And the nature of those factors might start coming into clearer focus relatively soon. Who knows? For example, scientists say they find evidence of past or present microbial life on Mars, Europa, or another body in our own system. That those organisms represent a second genesis, something totally different than life on Earth. Such a discovery would strongly suggest that it's not hard for life to get going throughout the cosmos. It's there. For all of those of you over on the radio station, guess what? It's time to say sayonara, farewell. So long, been good to know you for tonight. And we will see you next time. So live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey, folks, welcome back. This is a brief captain's cabin, mostly because I got nothing left. As I was saying at the beginning of the show, it's not so much being tired or worn out or sick as being tired, worn out, and sick the older I get. The older I get, it's like I feel like I need to go to bed at 7 o'clock in the evening so I can get up at 4 a.m., which I do anyway, no matter what time I go to bed. My voice feels rough. From this cold. This cold's been dragging out for a couple of weeks now. At least Rainy's got it, and everybody keeps it's just this roller coaster that we all keep jumping on and experiencing. The kids seem to coast through it fine. They're the ones who introduce it to the household. Then they're over it and they're off playing, while mom and dad have the resurgent every 6 days, it seems. Up and down, up and down. Well, it's kind of getting better, but it's got me worn down. I'm weaker of mind these days. Just dizzier and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, sinus stuff. And so I work up to doing radio at 9 o'clock in the evening, and I'm like, oh, geez, I got nothing left. And so there's not going to be much of a captain's cabin tonight. I will say, though, there are some comments that have been made. Uncle Dave, that's the thing, crossing over. Don't we want to know before we cross over, though? Maybe from that perspective over there, it'll seem cool. But from this perspective over here, I think it's the unknowns we want to know. I don't know. Would Star Trek universe be cool if you're already passed over? I don't know. Hey, Amanda, good to see you, Amanda, down in Australia. Been a long time since you've been able to pop in. Good to see you. Glad you're here tonight. And Professor Bauer, it's good to see you too. I am not set for any kind of a lengthy conversation tonight. So, and as I say it on cue, Professor Bauer pops in. Hey, Professor. How you doing?
I'm doing, my brother. How are you?
All right. I'm worn out today.
I understand that, and I thought I would just pop in and
I'm glad you did.
And just mention that, all of this from Fermi to Descartes to Plato, Pythagoras, all of the great thinkers and people who have established all these different concepts of reality, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
It's all somebody's interpretation of reality as they have experienced it. And even our sciences are nothing more than speculation. When Descartes separated the physical from the metaphysical back in the 1700s, which gave us the current science paradigm we have, up until that time, all cultures thought that everything resulted from the mind of consciousness, that everything was conscious, that had everything that existed had consciousness, even rocks had consciousness. And that paradigm shift to giving us this whole idea of everything has to be looked at from a physical perspective as opposed to thinking of things in the metaphysical sense, meaning all things considered from a physics perspective. That's why we have this messed up science paradigm that we have today. And it continues to be baffled by, as I've mentioned to you many times in the past, that, we're one turn of the spade to finding something that changes the entire understanding and paradigm of what it is that we think is reality.
Yes.
I think that what quantum mechanics is actually doing, and this is where Alfred North Whitehead, when quantum mechanics first became this new way of looking at things back in the 1920s, Whitehead was both a philosopher and a mathematician, so he was able to understand what quantum mechanics was bringing to the table.
Yes.
And the whole concept of this thing that we've talked about in the chat room about entanglement, where everything has a connection, and it's been proven, at least mathematically, in some small demonstrations in science, that there is this entanglement that seems to occur with atoms. But the atomic view of things is an Aristotelian, or from Aristotle. That's the way that he thought about the makeup of the physical universe. And even again with quantum mechanics, the atom is still something which is what Whitehead was able to grab onto right away, which is that everything is in motion. Everything is a wave, everything is a frequency. So a wave, you can't take a snapshot of a wave and say there is an example or an observation of a wave, because a wave takes time and space to wave in. So the whole idea and concept of this material world, this mechanistic materialism view of science that we have today, came from Descartes. And what's interesting to me is that there's a growing interest in pantheism, which is going back to what the ancients, Plato and Socrates and Pythagoras, all thought, was that everything is made from consciousness. So the materialistic view of everything being looked at from a physical perspective is being overturned. In fact, in quantum mechanics, the whole observer effect is what screws up all of their theories and their experiments, because once you observe something which requires consciousness, you now have a system state change. So quantum mechanics is challenged with the whole consciousness thing. Theologies and philosophies and all these other ways in which reality is described is immediately confronted with this whole thing we know as consciousness. And I think that is where the real science is. In fact, my opinion, I have a view and a theory that what we're going to see is a transformation from our current physics model into what I call frequency physics. Because everything has got a frequency to it, which means that everything has an energetic pattern, which means that everything has a wave. So I think that's where the majority of the exploration and the studies are going to go. And I think it's going to open up an entirely new world. Some of it is going to be a rediscovery of what used to be the way that life and physics and everything was looked. And it's going to change the way that our sciences, particularly in medicine. I mean, medicine has been a huge debacle. It's been exposed as a big fraud over the last 3 years, and it will continue to be exposed as a fraud. The entire pharmaceutical industry is a major joke. And in fact, I was thinking about doing a series of videos that take all these pharmaceutical ads and put them in reverse and start with the side effects. So if you took any of these pharmaceutical ads that says, hey, you've got this condition, you've got this problem, you've got these issues, here's Zaxol, or some bizarre name, I don't know where these guys come up with these names, that will fix that. Well, what they're doing is they're programming people to think, well, hey, I've kind of got that symptom and I've got a little bit of that condition and I must have that problem, so I must need that new drug. Well, all of those drugs are based on treating symptoms, not the cause. And they're based on a materialistic, mechanistic view of biology, which is completely antithetical to the way that we actually function.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my little rant on this bullshit of this pandemic crap that's been thrown at us. And I said when it first came out in January of 2020 that this is not what we're being sold, and the bullshit that it is going to be revealed over time. And we are now at what I'm also calling the great reveal. We're seeing evidence and information come out, not only of the actual science that went into the quote unquote virus and quote unquote vax, but we're seeing that the antics of the assholes behind this stuff were pulling while they were creating this bullshit.
Yes.
So, the whole
That's becoming more and more evident just every day. There's something new, it seems, in the last few weeks.
Oh, it's coming out in spades. the whole Woody Harrelson Friday
I was
night.
going to mention the Woody Harrelson SNL performance.
He just said the quiet part out loud.
That's
and
it.
And if you look at those that have pushed back on him, it's all the people that pushed the pandemic and the vax.
Exactly.
Colbert and his bullshit about making these skits on, you've got to have your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th injection in order to avoid this crap is just an example of a infiltrated, infected paradigm that the people, the powers that be, have hoisted on the minds of the sleeple.
Well,
and
I like what Woody Harrelson
away.
said when he started his little monologue on Saturday Night Live. He says, "So imagine a movie," he says, "where, he says the cartels all get together with the big corporations and they have a drug and you all have to take the drug and then you all have to stay inside." And he goes on and on and on. And then I love the way he ends it. He goes, "But," he says, "I didn't want to do that movie." He says, "Who'd believe that?" But that's exactly what happened here.
Well, and you notice that, these people that have gotten all these boosters, they're the ones that are getting sick.
Most of them.
Right. And you don't see any
but
discussion about natural immunity because there's no money in that. It's like what Chris Rock said years ago about, they don't there's no money in a cure. So why do a cure?
Why find a cure?
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think the great reveal is upon us, and it's not only in medicine. We're seeing it in politics. We're seeing it in the sciences. It's just all over the place. And the more information comes out, the more that people are just going to continue. I said about a year and a half ago that what I thought was going to come was the people were going to get pissed off. Yep. And the people are now pissed off and they're starting to pop off. And it's long overdue. There's been far too many just making sure that people are confused and that they're deliberately conned into thinking that it's something that it isn't.
Yes.
So now, as far as I'm concerned, it's long overdue, and it's only going to gain continuous steam and become something that across the board. And this is really going to, pop up in the entire government and political realm.
See you, Rudy.
And this is something that is really important to the sanity of the planet, in my opinion.
I agree. And I'm going to let you have that last word. So I've got no intelligent response other than my best intelligent response to you tonight is, yeah, what he said.
Now there's a line of bullshit for you.
There it is.
If you ever need a line of bullshit, you know who to call.
That's right. Is that you or me?
Me.
Oh, you. Well, Professor, thanks for coming on. You have a good night. I'm going to get out of here, so I'm going to let you go. And we'll see you again. We'll do this when I can actually do it again. Maybe Friday night will be the night. We'll see.
Load up on some D and zinc and get some chaga mushroom if you can. And that should. And if you can get a hold of ivermectin, that's another thing that they've shot to shit. Ivermectin is not only proven to relieve the symptoms, but it's apparently now there's finding that the spike protein in this bullshit virus, it'll remove the spike protein from the system. So if you can get some ivermectin, even hydroxychloroquine, all of that is actually something that is real, where it's just like the bullshit of, the whole thing of it, what's coming out now, where, the virus and the vax are bullshit. But you notice they never talked about it in natural immunity. They shot down ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and now we're finding out it actually works. So
That's
if you want to know what to do, just pay attention to what they're telling you not to do, and you'll probably
that's
get
pretty much
good results
right there.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, thank you very much.
Brother, you have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. All right, everybody else, thank you for being here. I got to get out of here. I'm about done for the night. So thank you for being here, for putting up with me, with my whiny attitude, my whiny ass attitude. Hopefully my whiny ass attitude is the asshole that you need today to learn how to not be whiny ass. So you all have a good night. I thank you for being here, for giving me your time, spending it here. And we will see you again on Friday, pending disaster of any kind or invasion from another world. We'll be here Friday night and we'll talk some more. So have a good night. Have a good day tomorrow. Live long and prosper.